Hi everyone, this is Erin Dupree with the Oracle Applications Users Group. Welcome to this session of How to Improve Your Chances of Being Selected to Speak at Collaborate 17. Before we get started, I would like to go over a couple of housekeeping items. You will be on mute throughout the presentation. You can type your questions into the question box in your control panel. We are recording the session and it will be available online shortly. I'd like to introduce our presenters, and we'll come back and meet them a little later. First, we have Christine Hipp, the Collaborate 17 Conference Chair. We have Elisa Johnson, Collaborate 17 Agenda Chair. Kabir Enoch, Collaborate 17 Agenda Co-Chair. Karen Brownfield, Collaborate 17 Co-Chair Strategic Programs. And Mohan Iyer, Collaborate 17 Co-Chair Strategic Programs. Next, I'd like to do a quick overview of today's session. We will do introductions and credentials and then discuss the conference selection process, some tips and tricks for paper selection, and then we'll open it up for panel discussion and Q&A. Now, I'd like for you to meet your presenters. First, we have Christine Hipp. Christine, tell us a little about yourself.
Hi there. Yeah, my name is Christine Hipp. I am currently a director on the OAUG board and have had the opportunity to be involved with Collaborate several years. I've been a conference chair a couple of years in the past and have been an attendee for years as a user member of OAUG. I am presently employed at Los Alamos National Laboratory as an IT manager, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be involved with Collaborate and what it offers the Oracle users in the community.
Okay, great. Thank you, Christine. Next, we have Elisa Johnson.
Hi. I am currently serving as the President-elect on the OAUG Board of Directors and as Collaborate 17 Agenda Chair. I've been active in the OAUG Education Committee, and actually presenting on Oracle topics is one of my favorite things to do with my job and my volunteer time. I am currently, in my day job, am working as a Senior Director for the Enterprise Application Practice at TEST, which is a system integrator, and very happy to talk to everybody on the call today.
Great. Thank you, Elisa. Next up, we have Kabir Enoch.
Thank you, Erin. My name is Kabir Enoch, and I'm a DBA for the last 24 years and an apps DBA supporting eBusiness Suite and PeopleSoft for 20+ years. My passion is upgrades, architectural changes, installations, everything, all the 9 yards, starting with eBusiness Suite version 10 until 12.2.5. I'm the agenda chair for Collaborate for the last 5 years, working along with Elisa Johnson for the upcoming Collaborate 2017. I was also on the board of directors for OAUG in the past. Currently, I'm the co-chair for OAUG Education Committee. Education is my passion. I have presented, panel, moderator at multiple conferences, OAUG, Collaborate conferences, Open Work Conference, Connection Points, and a lot of other e-learning initiatives. So, having been presented in past years, and I think I can share my experience with everyone who is looking forward for submitting presentations for the Collaborate 2017, and we can provide some tips and tricks to get your paper selected. And I want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar.
Thank you, Kabir. Next, we have Karen Brownfield. Karen, tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, I'm Karen Brownfield. I work for Infosomatics, where I am an Oracle Practice Director. I've been working with OAUG and the OAUG conferences since 1991 in various roles. This year I'm one of the co-chairs of the strategic programs, which we'll explain what that is later in the presentation. This is my 19th year on the OAUG board. I'm also on the OAUG Education Committee, and I think since '91 I've only missed 2 OAUG conferences. So I'm a very big believer, as Kabir, in education. I present often, not only at OAUG, but other conferences. And as Kabir said, because I've also been in the past an agenda chair, paper selection, that type stuff, one of the things we want to do is work with the people that want to be our speakers and use this presentation so that when you submit your abstract to be considered, that it will help increase your chances to be selected, because we're looking to hear from our members and what they have to say to other members.
Wonderful. Thanks, Karen. I don't think Mohan is on the call just yet, but he is the Collaborate 17 co-chair strategic programs along with Karen, and you'll hear more about those later. So at this point, I am going to hand it over.
I think you're handing it over to me, Erin. Is that correct? This is Christine?
Christine, yes, correct.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not on a computer, so I can't see slides. Thank you, Erin. This is Christine Hipp again, the Collaborate Conference Chair for next year, and I'm excited to talk to you a bit today about why you should submit your presentations and what this would mean for you. I personally have received a lot of value from my attendance at Collaborate over the years, and I'm really excited to be involved in continuing to provide this opportunity to our users. So as a prior conference attendee and the conference chair, I would tell you that this is your opportunity to share your knowledge with the Collaborate attendees. One of the most valuable activities for me as a user member is to attend the conference and attend presentations, particularly from other users or from associate members who have worked with other users, where they're giving us a look into a solution that they've provided. And oftentimes those solutions, I can see how I can take them home and use them in my business. So one of the opportunities is for you to showcase these innovative business solutions. We all know that there's opportunities to extend out our Oracle applications or improve them, and we love to hear about the things that folks have done from an innovative perspective that they can share with the members. Another opportunity for both the users and the associates is to highlight your own application expertise, to let folks know what you have to offer as a Oracle professional. Finally, one of the other opportunities, and I am particularly aligned with this, is you can bring your industry perspective to the meeting. A lot of us work in industries where we face specific problems or issues that we're trying to solve with our software, and other folks in that industry are very interested in those presentations at Collaborate. For example, I work for a company that's really a government contractor, and so we face unique challenges, and anytime I see a presentation around government in the cloud or those types of things that are specific to my industry, it really gets me excited to go to those presentations because I know it's going to definitely apply to me. Again, other opportunities is, as a presenter, you'll be able to attend hundreds of education sessions yourself. There's tons of networking. It's one of my favorite parts about Collaborate are the people I meet and the contacts I take home that help me in executing my business once I'm home. There's also the opportunity while you're there to visit the Collaborate Exhibitor Showcase. We have a great variety and a great quality of our exhibitors at Collaborate. Lots of opportunities to talk to people who can help you in your current projects and challenges. And finally, from the networking perspective, I think Collaborate has some of the best opportunities with our welcome reception and our closing party, both very well attended and very well done in order to allow our members to really get an opportunity to talk to each other and also have a really good time. So I think there's a lot of reasons why you should consider submitting a presentation for Collaborate, a lot of benefits to you and a lot of benefits to the community at large. Erin?
Great. Thank you, Christine. Does anyone have anything to add? If not, we will move on to Elisa. And again, thank you, Christine.
Okay, so this flow chart describes the paper selection process, and with so many papers being submitted, that's, unfortunately we don't have the room for everyone that submits to be able to present. And so I think it's one of the reasons we put this up here is to kind of explain what that process is and why it's really important to do some things to distinguish your paper and differentiate yourself when you do your submission, so that during the voting, during the room build, your paper can be kind of stand apart from the other papers that are submitted. So first up, we've already done many of these flows have already been accomplished. So as you know, Collaborate is a conference with 3 organizations working together. So in addition to OAUG, Quest and IOUG also are part of the conference. And we think that this is a great opportunity for them, for all of us to work together to provide high-value education. So when you see that first box that says work with the SEC to finalize the tracks, that's really the agenda chairs across those 3 organizations working together to make sure that the tracks that we have align with what's currently, the industry topics, the leading topics in the Oracle ecosystem. And so those are the tracks that you see when you go into the call for papers. We also wanted to this is something we've done just recently in the past several years, is to create that wish list by track. And that's even more detail around what we see as emerging trends and topics in the industry. And we really think that the attendees would appreciate hearing about those topics. So I would encourage, again, you to take a look at that wish list, because those are the kinds of topics and that we're looking for in terms of the Collaborate agenda. So if your paper aligns with one of those topics on the wish list, that's a plus in your favor in terms of having your papers selected. The call for papers is then open, which has already happened, right? So we already have the paper selection process already is starting. We also, again, in the last few years have started opening up the paper selection to member voting, which I'm a huge advocate of, because I think that's the way we're going to see, what our membership wants to view. Now, this is one vote per organization. So if your organization has not signed up to vote yet, please go on to the OAUG Collaborate page and submit your name and organization to be able to vote, because the more people we have voting, the better selection we can get in terms of what our attendees want to see. So we do have the voting as part of the process. Once the papers have been submitted, and Kabir is going to give us some tips and tricks here in the next slide. But once the papers are submitted and then the call for papers is closed, and do pay attention to that deadline and get your papers in by that close for the papers. Then we actually review all of those papers and make sure that they're in the right track. So you're asked when you submit your paper to select the primary tract and the secondary tract and the product. Sometimes that's not the track is not the one that would be the best for that paper, and we do sometimes move those around just to better align with what the track descriptions are. Then we send out a email to the voters and let them vote. It's on a scale for each paper. The other thing I would say in terms of the voting is to vote for the tracks that you have expertise in, right? So it's better to, that lends a better perspective if you're, limit yourself, because again, we have 1,500 papers out there to vote on. Don't think that you have to vote for every track. If there's a specific track you have expertise in, you can actually, sign up to vote for those tracks. The voting is completed in about a couple of weeks, and then we actually have committees that are assigned to each of the tracks that will do the room build. And those committees look at the votes and also at the specific papers that are in that track. It is really a labor-intensive kind of activity, because not only do we want to make sure we have a good representation of topics, we don't want to have, for that track, you wouldn't want 25 papers just on upgrading to 1225. We need to have a good variety. And then when we put them into the schedule, we also make a huge effort not to have competing presentations, right? So that the same presentation is not given across the same time period, so that you can build out your schedule and have a really strong schedule when the attendees come. Then we finalize the agenda and notify the speakers. We'll see at the end of the presentation today the key dates, and that notification of the speaker comes that first week of November. And then but we're not done yet, because then the speakers do have some responsibilities, and wanted to make you clarify what that is. Please do sign the compliance agreement right away once you've been notified that you've been accepted. That lets us know that you're aware of your responsibilities in terms of presenting a paper, and that you agree to those responsibilities. We'll then finalize the schedule, and you'll have then once the papers and presentations are submitted, then you will get your free registration code, and that's for the primary presenter only is who receives the free registration code. And finally, Collaborate will be upon us quicker than we think, and we can deliver those papers. In terms of making sure that you've submitted, we do look to see if you've submitted your papers and presentations. What we started last year and are continuing this year is that if you are a associate member or an implementation partner, that you submit both a white paper and a presentation. We really want you to be able to share your expertise in the area that you're speaking about. If you are a user member or a company that uses Oracle, we ask only for the presentation with the notes. It's really critical that these two documents are, are submitted before we send out the registration code. There's, like I said, 1,500 papers that have been submitted. If you right now don't feel like you're going to have the time or the bandwidth to be able to create those papers, then submit next year. We really want to think it's important to not only have the presentation at Collaborate, but also have the documentation to go along with it. So that's a key part for us in terms of, validating that you're ready to speak at the conference. Okay, next slide. Kabir is going to talk to us about some tips and tricks on how your paper can get submitted. And, sorry, I take it back. Next is Karen. I'm really excited about this. She's going to talk to us about the strategic programs. This is another way that you can get involved in speaking that's separate, really than apart than just a standard presentation at the conference. Karen?
Okay, strategic programs. We've got two types. We've got the exploration series and we've got power hour presentations. What we're looking at, exploration series, as the slide clearly states, it's a consecutive individual sessions which provide an opportunity to deep dive on specific processes. So this year we've picked 3 exploration series: procure to pay, order to cash, and plan to build. These will be, for example, let's take procure to pay. We'll pick a day of the conference that we'll do that exploration series. And if you attend the whole series, then you'll start in purchasing and you'll walk all the way, several transactions, several flavors of the transactions. For example, what happens if you have projects, what happens if you do this, and you'll walk it all the way through a procure to pay cycle until we get all the way through where you've paid the invoice. Order to cash, start with the order, go through the application of the cash. Because these are designed to be a set of series that feed on each other and work together, rather than go through the standard paper selection process, what we're asking people to do is to basically, you go ahead and submit a paper, because just because you may not be selected for the exploration series doesn't mean that your paper is not just an absolutely wonderful idea and we wouldn't accept it as a standalone. But if you're also asked to be included in this exploration series, please send an email to the email listed, education@oeug.org. Include in the email who you are, why you think, what your expertise is. I would like to participate in procure to pay or order cash or plan to build. I feel I can add a lot of weight, and then talk about what your area of expertise is. And what we will do is, if there's a committee behind this, we'll look at the people that say they want to participate in this and go look at some of the abstracts, and we will pick the people. Then we'll start having meetings where we will plan out, based on the people we select, what we're going to talk about over the 4 to 5 hours that each series consists of. And you'll either volunteer or be assigned a certain section. And at that point, and if it's the abstract you submitted, that's great. If not, we'll make sure that the agenda and everything accurately reflects the abstracts. So we're not just stitching together 4 or 5 paper topics and saying, oh, look, here's a series. This actually is going to be a process flow. Now, the power hours are a little bit different because they're an hour-long series where it's more of a roundtable discussion with moderators who can sit around. It's kind of like a little bit like the Meet the Expert sessions that you've been attending at the conferences. So if you've got a topic you think would be great for a power hour, then we need you again to send an email to the Education OAUG and say, hey, I've got a great idea for a power hour, and here's the topics I think we're going to cover. And you're usually looking for 3 or 4 topics, and I can put together kind of a panel that would sit down with one person at each table to be able to talk and handle these different topics. This is only going to last an hour. So last year we had some on tax, we had some on security. If you've got one on hybrid cloud, business analytics, another good one that might be really good for next year, or 2 of them, is if you're an international speaker and you want to talk about the new regulations in Europe to tie the journal entries back to the transactions and how that's impacting your applications, or the new revenue recognition rules. These are topics that are going to be of interest to all our members. So it is a topic that you think you could get together a panel of, of 2 or 3 people to sit around a table, make a little bit of presentation at first, about 10 minutes. This is what we're going to talk about. Here's how the tables break up, and then we're going to sit down and talk. Those are what the exploration and the Power Hour presentations are designed to do. And we have found that people are getting a lot of use out of this. The Exploration Series actually goes back many years. We've been doing that for years. This will be, I believe, this coming up conference will be the 3rd year we do Power Hours. And it's always been added a lot of value to the conference. So we're hoping that there are people out there. We do have a limitation this year on the Exploration Series of 1 participant per company, and the idea is not to allow any one company to dominate these, but so that the members can hear from a variety of experts on these subjects, because OAUG is about education, and we want to bring that best experience to all the attendees. But we're excited about this, and this does give you an opportunity to do it. You will still have to do a presentation, and if you're an associate member, you still have to do a paper for it. So understand, as Elisa said earlier, if you don't think you can devote that kind of time, and it's typically in the January time frame when you'll have to write your papers, December, January time frame. But we're hoping that everybody has some really good ideas and that they submit not only abstracts but express interest in these 2 strategic programs.
Great, thank you, Erin. All right, next we are moving on to Kabir.
Yep, thank you, Erin. Basically, I would like to share some tips and tricks for success in getting your paper selected. We always have different kinds of presenters. Some presenters have already done at least 1 presentation in the last few years of Collaborate, so they have a little bit of a better experience, but we also want to hear from the first-time presenters, whether it be an user company sharing their experience with implementing products or upgrading, or any other ideas they might have that they're currently implementing at their place. So if you have never presented, we still want you to welcome and submit your papers. Don't make it too complicated. Just start with a very solid idea. And what I mean by solid idea, you can definitely look in our wish list to come up with some ideas if you are trying to find topics to discuss or present on. Just don't make it too narrow and very, very specific, because if it's a much broader appeal, it will probably encourage a lot more attendees to attend that specific session, because it will become a much more hot topic for a broader attendees. So again, I'll emphasize, start with a solid idea, whether it be business analytics, whether it be security, whether it be, mobile. So there are a lot of, topics that you can choose from, and if you need help in choosing a topic, you can always go back and check the wish list, which gives what are the hot topics for this Collaborate 2017 that we think people might be looking for. If you need some guidance from your peers, definitely seek for it if you are trying to present for the first time. It's not that hard. It's just making sure that you get all the guidance you need, coming up with a solid idea, looking up at the wish list. Again, then I would say submit early. I think the deadline for paper submission is 7th of October, so keep submitting. I mean, if you have already done it, that's great. If you're thinking about it, do it as soon as you can. And there is no limit how many you want to submit. I mean, you can submit as many topics as you want, and then we'll go through the selection process, the voting process, and all that. Like Elisa mentioned, it's a big flow of processes with really, too many people included in that process. So if your topic is really, really solid, and that's one of the hot topics from the wish list that people are going to look for, it's a good chance that it will be selected. Now, make sure the title is pretty descriptive and catchy so that, remember, when people are voting, they do not see the company name, the submitter, the presenter names, all those. They only see the title and the abstract. So if your title is really a catchy one, that kind of attracts more people to vote for. And again, if it's well described during the voting process, during the selection process, it gives an extra edge. Next is the grammar counts. You don't want to submit something that has a lot of grammatical mistakes, because apart from this paper submission for Collaborate, do you want to read something that has a lot of grammatical mistakes? I mean, what kind of impression you get? Because this is the only way you're going to, create an impression to the voters, to the paper selection process. So please, please do proofread, make sure the grammar is correct. And the last but not least, try to co-present. If you're helping a user company to do some implementation, make the user as the primary presenter so that they get to share, and you can be, their experiences, and you can be speakers along with them and support their presentations. Just bearing in one point here, the primary presenter gets the free pass, but this way you get, the user to speak their own, share their own experiences. And anytime, if you are first-time presenter, you really need help in terms of reaching out. Make sure you contact Erin or OAUG, education@oug.com, and ask questions. You will be, provided answers or given some guidance. Because we do want to hear from everybody, even if you have never spoken at any of the Collaborate conferences. We do want to hear from everybody. With that, Erin.
Great. Thank you, Kabir. So moving on, I just wanted to go over some great Collaborate 17 resources we have online. The Collaborate website is collaborate.oaug.org. There is a wealth of information on that website. You can specifically find presenter information at the second URL. And then the wish list that a couple of the panelists referred to, you can also find on the Collaborate website. It's a PDF. And again, just if you want to start at collaborate.oaug.org, you can then navigate to all of this and more. Okay, next I just wanted to go over some key dates. October 7th, that is when call for presentations closes, so please get your proposals in ASAP. The week of October 31st is when we will notify those who have been accepted, and the week of February 20th, 2017 is when all presentation materials, including white papers and slide presentations, are due. And these dates you can also find on the Collaborate website, which is collaborate.oaug.org. So at this point, we would like to open up the floor for any questions that there may be. Let's see, it looks like some have already come in. Someone has asked where they can get the wish list. I will go back to that slide. The wish list you can find on the Collaborate website, and here is the direct link here at the bottom. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. Someone would like to know if they have already submitted 2 ideas, can they still add 1 more?
Yes, so you can submit as often as you want. So the criteria there is that if your organization is a member of OAUG, then the organization itself can have up to 7 papers selected, and an individual can have up to 3 papers selected, but there's no limit on the number of papers that can be submitted.
Okay, great. Someone is asking if you could be more explicit on who must submit white papers.
So if you're listed as an associate member with OAUG, then you have to do a white paper. If you're not a member of the user group, then if you are a system implementer or a organization that provides professional services for customers that are using Oracle products, then you have to submit a white paper as well as a presentation.
Typically, if you're a consultant like I am, you have to write a paper. If your company runs their business on the applications, i.e. you are a licensed user of one of Oracle's applications, and you're writing a paper talking about your company's use of the applications, you don't. What we do ask is that you have speaker notes, so that, which is kind of notes to yourself when you're doing a speaker, and then you can provide 2 copies of this. You can PDF just the slides, and then you can PDF the slides with notes, and in effect that is your paper. And also to the previous question, if you've already submitted an abstract and you want that abstract considered for any of the special programs, please go on and send an email to the email that was listed and said, hey, I've already submitted my abstract, but I would like it considered for the special programs.
Okay, great, thank you. And to the individuals who are asking about the wish list, you can also find that on our Collaborate Twitter page, and that is at collab, C-O-L-L-A-B _OAUG. So you can find the wish list there, and be sure and follow that Twitter handle for more information and updates. Okay, next question. Justin would like to know if he submits a topic on Primavera Analytics, which falls under the Business Analytics wish list, should he include or exclude Primavera from the session title?
There's no penalty for doing it either way.
I think, this is Kabir, I think you should keep it Primavera because it can be listed in 2 separate sessions. So it can be a Primavera specific attendees who are looking for, and it can also be attended by anybody who's looking into business analytics. So having the name in there.
Yeah. It'll help people search for your paper better, and also for the people that are voting on your papers. as Elisa mentioned when she was talking about the paper selection process, just because you submit it in one track doesn't mean that someone who's looking in another track doesn't decide, hey, you know, I know it wasn't selected for the business analytics, but now we want that one in the Primavera track, and they would have searched for everything that said Primavera. So I'd leave it. Agreed?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Next, Dawn would like to know, I'm working on a submission for the delivered integration between, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce this, Taleo. Taleo. I'm working on a submission for the delivered integration between Taleo EE and Oracle HCM. What track would you suggest for this submission?
I would do the middleware. That really is the one that has the integration in it. You can do the secondary track. You can do, you know, the HCM. But I think since it's specifically focused on the integration piece, that I would choose the middleware track. Anybody else have a thought on that?
Lisa, you're correct. I think it should go to the middleware as the primary track, and the secondary you can choose to make it, you know, either Taleo or, you know, whatever. It doesn't really matter, but I think primarily it should go into the middleware.
Okay, great. Next, Scott would like to know, what is the typical length of a presentation? I guess that would be how many slides.
It's
So,
actually, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Kabir.
I was going to tell it also depends. I mean, you need to time it when you write your paper, you know, PowerPoint presentations. It could be 15 PowerPoint presentation or 37 PowerPoint, but you need to practice it talking, you know, beforehand so that you can time it. Basically, it's an hour slot. So, you know, 45 minutes of your speaking time and always keep 15 minutes. That's our suggestions for Q&A. So if you have less number of slides, doesn't mean that the content is you're going to speak more. But some people like to have more slides and then go over it. But again, the primary point here is make sure you practice it and time it so that you can finish. Doesn't matter how many PowerPoint presentation you have, number of PowerPoint presentation, it's can be done within 40-45 minutes so that you have enough time for Q&A from the floor.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I would recommend is you want to make sure to adhere to the presentation criteria. So, you know, in other words, the size of the font of the writing, that's going to help you guide you into how many slides, right? So you can get a lot of information if you did, you know, 10-point font on, you know, 5 slides, but that's not going to be appropriate for a good presentation, right? So you want to use your good presentation, you know, criteria. I would think not less than 15 slides. I mean, we're going to be looking at the slides as they come in, and we want to make sure that they're going to communicate, you know, and be able to use up the entire 45 minutes. The other thing is, again, just what Kabir said, I can't emphasize that enough. It's such a good idea to practice because that, you know, gives you an idea of how long it's taking, right? And do I need another slide here? Let other people view your presentation because they'll have good feedback. Even sooner than that, when you're submitting your paper and your objectives, it's always a good idea to have, again, somebody proofread that, because if you have those grammar errors or it's not communicating clearly, sometimes you can't see that when you're doing it yourself, but if you have somebody read it over, they might have some good tips for you in terms of making it clearer.
Okay, thank you. Next question, is there a category you would recommend to submit for IT training and end user adoption?
So we do have a track for professional development. So that could be a good fit. You could go on and read the descriptions for each of the tracks. Change management, that's always a good topic. Sometimes that one's put into the executive session, you know, because they're the ones that are making decisions about the change management. Ladies, do y'all have any other ideas on that one? Kabir and Karen?
I think the professional development is something that you can look into, like Elisa already mentioned.
Yeah, and you know, in your title for the professional development, since you are talking about the change management, you are talking about the training, and it's such a critical part of a project. Make sure your abstract brings that, brings out that you are talking about the training, the change management, so that it has a real good chance of being accepted, because it is a topic of it's a topic of interest for many companies who are facing an upgrade or the implementation of a new product and have seen in the past they've overlooked that area. So yeah, I think professional development would be good.
Okay, thank you all. Next, we have a great question from Patrick. He would like to know if we consult with IOUG and Quest when we evaluate presentations. Really only to the extent that we feel like something has been submitted into our paper submission process that really belongs over in Quest or IOUG. So I'll give you a good example. If you submitted something on PeopleSoft, PeopleSoft is really comes under the umbrella of Quest. And so if we got a PeopleSoft presentation, we would notify the speaker and really move that over into the Quest area. Okay, thanks, Elisa. Are there any other questions? We do have about 10 more minutes, and you have all of these great experts at your fingertips, so please submit your questions. We did have one just come through. If I'm not an OAUG member, can I still submit?
Yes, you can still submit, and there's no limit on submissions, but for non-members, we only accept one paper. So if you had somebody in your organization that had 5 presentations, we would evaluate those, and we could only accept up to just only one paper, because we really are trying to support and encourage the members of OAUG. So yes, you can absolutely have a paper accepted, and we do review all of those equally with the member papers, but you can only have one paper accepted.
Okay. We have another question, and this is actually about the submission process. Great question. So there's a question during the submission process: how many sessions have you presented in the past? Does this mean pertaining only to OAUG or outside of OAUG?
Outside of it's not just OAUG. We're really trying to just gauge where you've presented to a group, like at a conference, right? So of course people present within their work environment to a smaller group, but we really are looking for presenting to a larger group of people in an educational type forum. But it doesn't have to just be Collaborate. I mean, you could go to a local conference and present, and that would be included in that number.
Correct. And just to add, I mean, if you have done it through, even for OUG as an e-learning or connection points or local user group or SIG meetings, those are counted too.
Okay, thank you, ladies. We have another question. Would it be better to submit an IT training session specifying the training tool, i.e. UPK, or as a general training subject, i.e. user adoption for global rollout?
I mean, again, that, I think from my perspective, that's just up to you, right? I don't know that one or the other would be, better. It depends on the other present, sometimes it depends on the other things that are submitted as well, right? So if you had, 10 that were submitted that were globally focused, then that's a lot to choose from. If you're the only one that's a global focus, then that differentiates you, but we really don't know because we don't know, what else is being submitted. So whatever you feel most confident about and can clearly communicate about in the both of the title of the presentation, the abstract, and the objectives, that's what I would do.
Okay, thank you. We have another good question. This one is from Kirsten. She would like to know if we are submitting 2 or more proposals with a user who is not a member as the primary presenter and we are members, will they still have the 1 presentation limit?
Yes, if they're the primary presenter. You might submit 1 with them as primary and 1 with you as primary.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Someone would like to know about how many papers are expected to be selected.
What was the number from last year?
It was 1,500 to 485, I think. So total submission. Total submission was 1,500 round approximately, and we selected 485 based on the rooms and the slots available. This is for Collaborate 2016. So roughly speaking, it's 1/3 of the total submission.
Right.
Thank you, Kabir. All right, everyone, are there any other questions today? I'm going to go back and share my contact information. If you do have any further questions following today's session, please feel free to reach out to me. This is my email address here on the screen. And it doesn't look like we have any more questions, so I wanted to say thank you very much to everyone who joined us. Thank you to our panelists for your time and input, and good luck to those submitting. And does anyone have anything to add before we close out here?
I was just going to add, if you have never submitted and you're thinking or a little bit, scared to submit, please do go ahead. Even though the topic is not, maybe according to you, not very important, but believe me, there is somebody out there who would like to know about your knowledge sharing, your accomplishment in any of the project implementation that you have done it within your company. And just sharing that knowledge will help a bunch of other attendees. And so don't be scared in submitting. Please go ahead. We want to hear from everybody, especially who has never done it, but they have things to share, and you will be surprised how everybody would welcome your topic.
Thank you, Kabir. Is there anyone else? Okay, we'll conclude the session. So again, thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.